I've come to realize that as a singer, I very much have a guitarist's brain. And this has really colored the experience that I had learning how to sing. And I'm sure there's tons of you guys out there that play a bit of guitar or a lot of guitar, and it's also having the same effect on how you learn to sing and really the results that you get when you do vocal exercises in the same way that you did them when you were learning to play guitar. For the longest time, I really looked at singing in such a linear way, right? That I couldn't hit half of the songs that I wanted to sing, right? I just couldn't fathom how you could hit higher notes, right? He came from an island and he died from the street, right? Especially the supernova stuff, right? Sail on to heaven, yeah. For me, I was looking at it, note, but he never said nothing to me, yeah. Say hello to heaven, heaven. Really, I really couldn't get out of that guitarist brain, right? And this is really a missing link for so many people that have learned other skills that have been very linear. You do these exercises, you do these sounds or whatever it is, these exercises, and eventually you get better by repetition. But you try that with singing and you don't really get the same results. Or some people do, and then you don't for some reason. And that's exactly what we're going to go through in this video. I'm Keegan from Foundation Vocal Method. I've been helping singers all around the world for the past 15 years hit bigger, better, stronger, higher notes than they ever imagined possible, so that they can go out there and sing 14 shows in a row, each one better than the last, so that they can sing F2 to A5 with no break. I mean, that's a serious amount of range, right? And what most people don't realize when they're learning to sing, and how most people look at it when they're teaching singing too, is they obviously look at the notes and the pitch first, right? I mean, you can have a great sounding voice, but if you're not hitting the notes, I mean, it's going to sound amateur. It's going to sound terrible. So everyone's hyper-focused on pitch. And again, very linear like guitar, or piano, right? I just put my finger there and the note's there. So we look at singing in the same way. However, that same fundamental vibration that creates your pitch creates the harmonic, which is your vowel, basically. So you're creating your vowel in an initial sense. And this is the way that I look at singing. I'm really looking at the vowel first. So you'll hear it when I'm singing, right? So, came from an island, right? I'm not really focusing on that higher pitch there. I'm singing a sound which works at that pitch, because your vowels are really tuned to certain notes. That's a bit of a mind bender to get your head around, but an A vowel likes to be at a certain pitch, an E vowel likes to be at a certain pitch, and an R vowel likes to be at a certain note, a certain pitch, right? Unfortunately, that's not how rock singing works, right? That's not how Chris Cornell songs work. You've got to sing every single sound at every single note in your range, but they don't really match that well. So some words you do okay, other words you don't. I'm sure you've had that experience. You're kind of doing okay with a chorus or something, and then a certain word comes along and you completely crap out. That's because the sound you sang and the way you sang it is not tuned to that pitch, right? Now, here's the thing about vowels. There's more than one sound going on at the same time. You create the potential of all kinds of sounds, all kinds of harmonics, all kinds of different sound waves in different directions and lengths, potentials, right? So you can change different parts of the sound to really match that vowel to the pitch, right? So you can actually change the pitching mechanism within the vowel itself, which has the flow-on effect to the physical pitching mechanism, without really changing that clarity and pronunciation, right? So you can really retain the words like I was just doing when I was singing Temple of the Dog there, right? Retain those words, but still have the benefit of ultimately singing outside of my natural range, or the range that you'd probably expect me to be singing in, right? So why does this work for some people? This is the big question probably hanging over your head. It's like, well, I know someone that did vocal exercise, or maybe that's you. Maybe you did a bunch of vocal exercise and you got a lot better, and you're wondering what the hell I'm talking about. What's this psychopath from Australia talking about? Right? Go and kick a kangaroo or something. Vocal exercises are designed to bring out something very specific in very specific voices. Let me streamline that for you, right? Most vocal methods out there, most of them that I went through when I was learning how to sing, and the courses I bought, I got a whole stack of courses still I haven't looked at in 15 years, 10 years. Most of them are derived from classical technique, and that's completely fine. There's nothing wrong with that, right? When someone says support, this is derived from appoggio. This is a classical technique. When someone's talking about placements, derived from mask, right? That's a classical thing. Like open throat, this isn't just some fancy marketing term. This is a 300-year-old, Lagola Ruperta, term, right? It's a 300-year-old thing, right? So if you think about it, 300 years ago, there was no such thing as casual vocal lessons. I think I'm going to learn to sing Man in the Box today. I'm going to learn to sing a Skid Row song. Well, none of that stuff existed, number one, and it wasn't a casual pursuit, and there wasn't the expendable income either to, just go and take a vocal lesson, right? Now, an opera guru that's actually teaching this stuff, he's not going to give you the time of day if you don't have a modicum of talent already and some natural ability for them to nurture. They're not going to accept you as a vocal apprentice if these sounds don't make your voice do a certain thing. They're not going to waste their fucking time, right? It's a waste of time. Yet this is most vocal techniques that we've been stuck with, right? All of these techniques and terms that everyone's, the soup that we're swimming around in are vocal terms, right? It's all derived from that. It's all for natural singers. Ultimately, if you think about it in that way, all of these things are for natural singers that sing in a certain way. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been nurtured as a singer. And yet here we are trying to do these vocal exercises and sounds and techniques, which do shit all for us. Now, there's a very key reason for this, right? I've really spent the last 15 years studying the difference between natural singers and the rest of us, like you and me, that maybe do the vocal exercises and don't get as much out of it as someone else, or don't get anything out of it, right? And that's really what you're doing when you're looking at your favorite singers singing in a lot of cases too. A lot of my favorite singers didn't really take vocal lessons. It doesn't mean you can't sing like that. It doesn't mean they're not making the right choices. They just make the right choices by instinct and default, right? And a key aspect to this is two key aspects to this. Involuntary innervation. The key systems in your voice are linked to key systems in your body. Now, such as the cricothyroid or the epiglottis, these are largely involuntary systems, and you have to have the right innervation system to communicate with these systems. We don't know how to do that. I mean, how the hell do you communicate with a superior laryngeal nerve? Right? How do you communicate with the vagus nerve, right? I'm sure you've noticed at some point that singers can sometimes be overly confident, especially voice teachers. Sometimes the ability to sing doesn't necessarily match their confidence level, right? It's completely fine. That's great. I'm envious of that. I'm sure you see the anxiety streaming down the camera from me right at you. Now, this is a key system in the body, basically resetting the central nervous system. So basically when they're singing, when people say, okay, you need to relax to sing well, it's not relaxing that's making them sing well. It's the system that makes them relax that makes them sing well, because that same system is linked in the body, right? Let me simplify all of that for you. If you want to tension the vocal folds to pitch, which is what I'm doing when I'm singing that high stuff there, you need to use the vagus nerve, which is tied to your breathing, right? Now, I'm sure when things aren't going right for you, you start to get pretty fucking annoyed and frustrated. You get stressed about shit, right? You're not necessarily a happy-go-lucky guy, and if you are, that's great. I'm so happy for you. I'm not. Exactly. I'm pretty highly strung. That's because this key system of resetting the central nervous system and getting out of fight or flight has basically been a lifelong problem of mine, and probably of yours too, right? You get the bills, you have people leave you dumb comments on YouTube, you have this, that, family, kids, all of this stuff, traffic, work. All of these things basically compile and put you in a state of fight or flight, right? These key systems in the central nervous system are responding to basically a lion jumping out at you in the jungle. Imagine being in the jungle, lion jumps out of you. There's no need to sing Skid Row songs at that point. So that's one of the first systems, and that's why these systems are linked in the body. They get switched off immediately. It's like, okay, we don't need to sing I Remember You, so that gets switched off. Let's fucking run, right? And that's the state that you're in, depending on your disposition, your culture, your background, the stuff you've been through, the experiences you've had, whether you were a guitarist and you just did exercise and got great, you do some vocal exercises, you don't get the same result, right? These key systems aren't being innervated in the right way in your body, right? So those exercises are not designed to help you, right? They're designed to identify those people that those things work for and bring something out of those specific voices and those specific people. And you and I most likely aren't them. The other key reason is tonal reflex, right? Now, our bodies are we communicate in a primitive way without realizing. Yes, we have fancy language for things, right? But there's certain tones which are international, right? You don't need to speak the same language as someone to understand that they're sad or stressed or angry or lost and they need directions, or you need directions. You're in another country, they don't speak English and you're lost. You're like, where the fuck am I going? They can tell in the frequencies of the voice. The brain is tuned to those frequencies to hear a certain thing, respond in a certain way, right? Now, the voice in its natural resting state doesn't actually make all of the sounds that it needs to communicate in such a primitive way, right? So the voice needs to go into different physical setups to create different sounds, which can be identified by the brain as different forms of communication, right? Singing's exactly the same. This voice here doesn't necessarily create all the tones that I need to sing all the stuff that I want to sing, right? So it has to go into different states. How do we get the voice physically into different states to bring out those extra frequencies? This is a tonal reflex. Learning to use this and learning to go for specific tones that might be slightly outside of what you're expecting. You go for an aggressive rock sound. You might need to go for a cry in the sound. You might need to go for a young boyish sound to get that out, right? And that's not obvious to most people that aren't natural singers, right? So we don't go for that tone. We can't sing the fucking songs, right? This tonal reflex is such a key part of what separates natural singers from you and I, and the experience that I had learning how to sing. Then finally, we obviously have our vowels. We've got our formants, activating our formants, right? There's more than one sound within your vowel. And looking at basically flipping the voice upside down, instead of looking at it, okay, pitch and note first, like everyone looks at it. We start to look at our vowels first, right? Say I want to sing the word hey. Let's use a really generic reference, right? And I want to go up to that A4 on a hey, right? And I'm just singing hey, right? Hey. I'm not going to hit the pitch. You can probably tell, right? It's going to hey. Or I'm going to yell it and not get through the rest of this video, right? So I'm looking at the pitch of that and trying to hit that note, right? Instead, if I actually look at my vowel sounds and I'm like, okay, we're going through and I'm shifting up to there, right? Right, that hey, hey, hey. I mean, it sounds like hey, right? It's a rock and roll hey, right? I'm using the vowels to make that happen. I'm not really focused on the pitch as an initial sense, because the pitch and the vowel are created together. You have to activate your formants and get the right space within your vowel. And this is why vocal exercises don't work for you. This is why a lot of stuff out there is not really designed for your voice, right? Making these realizations that I've made has allowed me to really create a completely different model for learning to sing for people that aren't naturals, right? If the vocal exercises out there work for you and the monkey sounds and all that stuff, that's amazing. I'm super, super happy for you, and I'd love to hear you singing, right? I'd love to hear the amazing stuff you're going out there and doing, but that's not all of us. And that's okay. For those of us with the figurative guitarist brain, we're not looking at this in the right way. We're looking too linear at something that's basically you are the instrument, and there's so much psychology involved in this, right? There is a better way to learn how to sing. So what I've done is I've been developing a vocal blueprint. This is what I give to all my students that I work with. And this is basically the vocal Bible as per Keegan, right? These are the vowel choices that I'm making to sing this stuff. This is what I identify in Chris Cornell's voice in his prime. This is what I identify in Paul Rodgers, Lane Staley's, Ann Peebles, all these amazing singers that I love with a crazy higher range than me, right? These are the choices that they're actually making in the background. And once you actually start following this, you can sing stuff that you didn't think was possible, right? Just like my students are doing, right? Beyond that, I've started developing a completely different system that I'm using to teach people called the Formant activation system, which is exactly what we just talked about, innovating the involuntary systems of the voice, right? If you're not that natural singer that does the ma-ma-mas and suddenly have 3 octaves of range and you're awesome, you're not innovating the right systems. This needs to happen. Finally, we have that tonal reflex, getting the voice into the right state outside of your perception of what you think your favorite singers are doing. Again, that's how I'm hitting the high stuff. And obviously, we got to look at our vowels. So pretty much all the videos out there that I've done on YouTube in the past decade has been culminating to this point, right? If you want to download the blueprint and you want to watch my training video on the Formant activation system, you can hit that link down below and join me. But I want to add something to that. You guys that have been following the channel for quite some time, you've probably noticed that I've been absent, or maybe you haven't. Maybe you're like, fuck that guy, I'm glad he's not here. I haven't done a video in 12 months. This wasn't necessarily intentional. It was just a comedy of errors that pulled me away. It became a couple of weeks, a couple of months, 3 months, 6 months, And it's been 12 months. I've barely even looked at comments or anything. I haven't been on the loop. And I've found something pretty fascinating. The language that I use with my students to help them, get them out there on the tours, get them out there actually making records and doing all this stuff with the crazy range, the 3 octaves of range that they're developing. They're taking what I'm doing and they're taking it to another fucking level. This is incredible for me to see someone taking something I've sparked in them, giving them that foundation. They go out and do some crazy thing. Wow, I didn't know that was possible with this. That's amazing. I've realized I've started using different language. And this is such a huge problem with vocal training. Because when I'm talking about matching the pitch of the sound to the harmonic of the vowel, and I say that's mixed voice, right? If your pitch is below the tuning of the vowel, it's chest voice. If it's above the tuning of the vowel, it's head voice. If it matches, I mean, it must be mixed voice, right? But I say mixed voice in a video or to one of my students, and their brain shuts off and starts running on neural connection, right? Oh, that's a monkey sound. Oh, that's compression. Oh, that's a nasal sound. Whatever they've seen previously with this language that's basically a soup of just all mixed up and muddled and not even designed for you, yet we're using those terms. So I've really started using different language and looking at singing in a different way. And I encourage you to get off YouTube. It's changed my voice in the last 12 months, and it's changed how I work with people, and it's also changing my students' lives as well, that I've stepped away from that and that soup of all those, the language that wasn't serving me, and allowed me to actually help people and get them to that level that they need to get to, outside of just saying, hey, it's mixed voice, it's open throat. None of these things means anything, right? If you can explain what's actually going on and you know what's going on, you're innovating that right system and you're making the right tonal reflex and you're getting those formants, right? It ends up being a very different conversation for singers like you and me that don't just do the exercises and magically sing better, right? I encourage you to get off YouTube, hit that link down below, download the blueprint, and actually get out there. Get out there and do that open mic night. Get out there and have a conversation with a real singer in a room, right? Go out there to your local bar or something and go and see a band and go and hit up the singer. Man, that was fucking great. How are you doing that? Like, how did you learn that? What are you doing there? And actually get out there and get off YouTube, because we're stuck in a soup of this language which is not serving us as singers. And I'm recognizing that we're different. Singers like me, singers like you, we're different to a lot of the conventional stuff that's out there. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that you can't become a better singer. We just need to speak in a different language. So hit that link down below and I'll show you exactly the language that I'm using here and what I'm using to help my students hit these crazy notes and how I'm using it. And I hope it's not another 12 months before I see you guys. I'd love to talk to you again soon. Keegan from Foundation Vocal Method. We'll talk again soon.